I was transported into an abusive romance novel as the female lead, and the male lead is about to harvest my kidney for the sake of the woman he loves. The male lead's assistant handed me a bank card. Here's $5 million. Take the money and pretend this never happened. Outside the operating room, the second female lead clutched the male lead's hand pitifully. Brother, this is all my fault. If it weren't for me, sister wouldn't have to. I lay on the hospital bed, watching their performance, when a system voice echoed in my mind. Ding, kidney harvesting plot detected. Congratulations, host. You've activated the damage transfer function. I didn't hesitate to select yes. The cold surgical lights blazed, making my eyes water. The surgeon wore a mask. Mr. Harrison's orders, local anesthesia only. He wants you fully conscious throughout. As he spoke, his scalpel was already cutting down. I felt no pain, but from outside the operating room came Isabella's heart-wrenching screams. The doctor's hand trembled, his blade leaving a shallow cut on my abdomen. Chaos erupted outside. Isabella, what's wrong? David Harrison panicked. Doctor, get a doctor. My stomach hurts so bad, like someone's cutting me open. Isabella's cries were trembling and heartbreaking. The operating room door burst open as David rushed in. Behind him followed a crowd of doctors and nurses, blocking the doorway completely. What's happening? Why did the surgery stop? David's gaze swept over me before settling on the surgeon, full of accusation. The doctor removed his mask, sweat covering his forehead. Mr. Harrison, Miss Isabella I'm asking about the surgery. David's voice shot up. The patient's vital signs are strange. The incision barely bled at all. The doctor pointed at me, confusion in his eyes. David finally looked at me, his stare like he wanted to torture me slowly. Emma, what tricks are you playing now? I forced a smile, the anesthesia making my expression stiff. What tricks could I possibly play? I'm just lying here, waiting for you to harvest my kidney. His chest heaved violently, clearly furious. His assistant rushed over. Mr. Harrison, Miss Isabella's tests show nothing wrong. David's face darkened. He stared at me like I was a monster. Finally, he spat out through gritted teeth. Watch her closely. Don't let her take a single step away. He turned and rushed toward Isabella's room. In the operating room, doctors and nurses exchanged glances. This absurd kidney harvesting surgery was forced to stop. I lay on the cold operating table, feeling the insignificant scratch on my abdomen. It didn't hurt at all. In my mind, the system's mechanical voice spoke again. Damage successfully transferred to target. Isabella. I closed my eyes, unable to suppress my smile. I was sent back to my hospital room. Calling it a room was generous. It was basically a prison. Two of David's bodyguards stood at the door, never leaving. My phone, wallet, everything that could connect me to the outside world was confiscated. David was completely isolating me. From the next room came Isabella's occasional crying and David's gentle comfort. Brother, I'm so scared. It really hurts. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Such deep love. So touching. I lay in bed and casually pinched my arm hard. Next door, Isabella's pained cry immediately followed. Then came David's roar. Where's the doctor? Are you all dead? Complete chaos. I looked at the red mark on my arm and laughed out loud. This damage transfer function was the perfect revenge tool made just for me. You love playing these cruel physical and emotional games? Then let your precious female lead experience it properly. That evening, David came. He radiated coldness, his eyes bloodshot like a demon from hell. Emma, what did you do? He grabbed my throat and lifted me from the bed. Suffocation immediately wrapped around me. I didn't struggle. Then I heard Isabella's assistant screaming from the hallway. Something's wrong. Miss Isabella can't breathe. David's grip loosened. He looked at me in disbelief, then back toward the door. Fear filled his eyes. It's you. It really is you. I coughed twice, greedily breathing fresh air. I don't understand what you're talking about. Stop pretending. He threw me back on the bed. Emma, I'm warning you, if you dare hurt Isabella, I'll make you wish you were dead. I laughed. David, you seem to have misunderstood something. From the moment you decided to harvest my kidney, we became mortal enemies. As for wishing I were dead, I sat up on the bed, looking directly at him. You're welcome to try. Let's see who ends up wishing they were dead. My crazy stare shocked him into stepping back. This discovery delighted me. Even the almighty David Harrison could feel fear. David left. He fled in panic. He didn't dare touch me again because he was trapped by his own concerns. He loved Isabella, loved her enough to hurt another innocent person. That love had now become my sharpest weapon. Late at night, I was hungry. I hadn't touched the food the bodyguards brought. Not because I didn't want to eat, but because I didn't dare. Who knew if David had drugged it? I pressed the call button. A young nurse walked in with a cold attitude. What do you need? I'm hungry. I want crab soup dumplings from the shop outside the hospital. The nurse frowned. The hospital has a cafeteria. I don't like cafeteria food. I looked at her. You're a new intern, right? Help me with this favor and I'll make it worth your while. She hesitated. David had bribed most of the medical staff here with money, but there were always exceptions. Like this naive girl who hadn't been beaten down by society yet. I pulled out a lipstick from under my pillow, a limited edition from a luxury brand that the original owner had bought but never used. This is my thanks. The young nurse's eyes lit up. Wait for me. She took the lipstick and hurried out. Half an hour later, she returned with crab dumplings and a bowl of soup, thoughtfully helping me avoid the bodyguards at the door. Thank you. I thanked her sincerely. You're welcome. She scratched her head. Actually, we all know what Mr. Harrison is doing is too much. I smiled without responding. After eating my fill, I felt my strength returning. With nothing else to do, I decided to add some more excitement next door. I got out of bed and walked barefoot on the cold floor for several laps. The chill shot up from my feet, making me shiver. So cold Isabella's sleep talk drifted from next door. I raised an eyebrow and walked to the window, pushing it open. Early winter wind poured in. I stood in my thin hospital gown at the window, shivering violently. Soon, violent coughing came from next door. Isabella, what's wrong? Did you catch cold? So cold, brother. I'm so cold. David frantically closed windows, grabbed blankets, called doctors. I was satisfied and closed my window, climbing back into my warm bed. A good night's sleep. The next day, I heard Isabella had caught a cold and fever, reaching 102 degrees. David was running around frantically, calling in several specialists for consultation. Meanwhile, I was energetic and refreshed. I even deliberately sneezed when the nurse made rounds. Next door, Isabella immediately started coughing more violently. David finally couldn't take it anymore. He stormed into my room room again, holding a document and slamming it in front of me. Emma, sign this.
David slammed the document onto my bed. Sign it. I picked it up lazily. Property transfer agreement. Everything under my name would belong to Isabella. I looked at David, then at the document, then back at David. Do you have a brain tumor? The room went silent. David's face darkened instantly. What did you say? I waved the document. You already want my kidney. Flip. You locked me up. Flip. You threatened me. Flip. And now you want my money too? I looked genuinely curious. Why don't you just ask me to donate my liver while you're at it? The bodyguards lowered their heads. Their shoulders were shaking suspiciously. David looked like he was about to explode. Emma. What? His chest rose and fell violently. Sign it. I smiled. No. His expression turned icy. You think I won't force you? Oh. I suddenly grabbed the edge of the paper. Rip. The document split neatly in half. Rip. Then quarters. Rip. Then eighths. Tiny pieces fluttered across the room like snowflakes. The entire room froze. David stared. I stared back. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes passed. Finally he exploded. Emma. At that exact second, a scream came from next door. David instantly froze. The anger on his face vanished. Isabella. He spun around and ran. I watched him disappear. Then slowly looked at the shredded contract. Works every time. Half an hour later my nurse came back looking excited. Miss Emma. What happened? Mr. Harrison was screaming at 6 specialists. I almost spat out my tea. Only 6? The nurse nodded seriously. Actually there were 8. That's more reasonable. Apparently after David yelled at me, Isabella developed a mysterious throat pain. The specialists couldn't find anything. Naturally. Because I had been yelling too. That night I couldn't sleep. So I got bored. A dangerous thing. Very dangerous. I sat up in bed. System. The mechanical voice appeared immediately. Host? Can transfer damage stack? Yes. Interesting. Very interesting. I rubbed my hands together. The system suddenly became nervous. Host? I ignored it. Instead I pinched myself. Once. Twice. 3 times. 4 times. 5 times. The system was silent. Then next door. IT hurts. Everywhere. I burst out laughing. The system finally spoke. Host, are you bullying her? Absolutely. The next morning the hospital was in chaos. Doctors ran everywhere. Nurses looked exhausted. Meanwhile I sat comfortably eating breakfast. Crab soup. Dumplings. Fried buns. A full feast. The young nurse looked at me strangely. Miss Emma. Why are you in such a good mood? I pointed next door. Another scream echoed through the wall. I took a happy sip of soup. Music. By noon David looked ready for the grave. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. His hair was a mess. He kicked open my door. I looked up. Oh. I pointed at him. You're starting to resemble a human being. His eye twitched. Emma. Yes. Exactly what do you want? I thought for a moment. Then pointed at the dumplings. Vinegar. The nurse forgot my vinegar. David looked like he was considering murder. Then from next door came another miserable cry. Brother. He immediately turned around and ran away again. I watched him leave. Then happily stole another dumpling. Honestly, this was way more entertaining than donating a kidney. I finished my dumplings and was contemplating whether to take a nap when the system suddenly spoke. Host. Your behavior is becoming increasingly unethical. I nearly choked. Excuse me. You are using a powerful supernatural ability to bully a sick woman. I pointed at the wall. That sick woman tried to steal my kidney. Good point. The system fell silent. Victory. That afternoon I discovered something interesting. Very interesting. The young nurse was changing my bandage when she accidentally poked the tiny incision on my abdomen. Ouch! Immediately. A scream erupted next door. The nurse jumped. The cotton swab flew out of her hand. The bodyguards outside nearly kicked the door off its hinges. And from the hallway came David's increasingly familiar roar. Doctor. I blinked. The nurse blinked. We looked at each other. Then at the wall. Then back at each other. Neither of us said a word. The nurse slowly finished changing my bandage. Miss Emma. Yes. I suddenly remembered I have other patients. Then she fled. That evening David returned. Again. At this point he was basically my roommate. He stared at me. I stared back. He stared harder. I grabbed an apple. Crunch. He continued staring. Crunch. Finally he couldn't take it anymore. What are you doing? Eating an apple. I can see that. Then why ask? A vein bulged on his forehead. Honestly, I was starting to worry about his blood pressure. Emma. How do you know Isabella? I nearly laughed. The man was finally developing critical thinking skills. Only took him a few years. Through you. Stop lying. Okay. I took another bite. He waited. I waited. Eventually he realized that was my entire answer. His eye twitched. Again. Poor thing. He developed a permanent eye twitch since this whole mess started. Just then a nurse rushed past the room. Then another. Then another. David immediately stood up. What happened? The nurse looked terrified. Miss Isabella suddenly developed severe tooth pain. I almost sprayed apple everywhere. Tooth pain? Wait. I touched my tongue. The tiny canker sore I'd gotten this morning. No way. No way. The transfer function was this ridiculous? David was already sprinting away. A minute later I heard screaming. Then crying. Then more screaming. Then a dentist being dragged into the VIP ward. At 10 o'clock at night. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. Which unfortunately made Isabella's stomach hurt too. The screaming resumed. The next morning. I was eating breakfast. Again. When the system suddenly announced. New feature unlocked. I sat up. Really? Transfer range expanded. What does that mean? You may now transfer non-injury effects. I froze. Slowly. Very slowly. A grin spread across my face. The system sounded alarmed. Host? I threw off my blanket. Host nothing. Host, why are you smiling like that? No reason. Host, no reason at all. The system became increasingly nervous. An hour later, David was holding a meeting with several company executives in the VIP lounge. I knew this because the nurse told me. Apparently his company was on fire. Couldn't imagine why. So I quietly walked into the bathroom, then squeezed half a bottle of eye drops into one eye. Immediately tears started pouring out. I looked like a tragic heroine abandoned by her lover. Perfect. 3 minutes later, the VIP lounge exploded. The nurse came running back, laughing so hard she could barely speak. Miss Emma, what happened? And Miss Isabella suddenly started crying. I nodded. As expected, the nurse wheezed. She couldn't stop. What? She was crying while eating. I bit my lip. Bad. Very bad. I was about to laugh. The nurse continued. She was crying while talking. Oh no. Then she started sobbing in front of Mr. Harrison's business partners. I lost the battle. Laughter erupted from me instantly. The image was too powerful. Some executive trying to discuss a billion-dollar project. Meanwhile, Isabella was sitting there weeping like she'd just watched the saddest movie ever made. That evening David arrived looking completely broken. Not angry. Not cold. Just tired. Very, very tired. Emma. Yes, please. I nearly fell out of bed. Was that a plea? His jaw tightened. Just tell me what you want. I thought carefully, then pointed at the fruit basket. I want strawberries. The good ones. The expensive ones. David stared at me. I smiled sweetly. For a brief moment he looked like he wanted to throw himself out the nearest window. Then from next door came. Brother, why am I crying again? David closed his eyes, took a deep breath, turned around, and walked away without saying another word. I grabbed another dumpling. Honestly, this hospital stay was getting more entertaining every day. The next morning I woke up to find 3 giant boxes of premium strawberries beside my bed. I stared at them. The nurse stared at them. We both stared at the card attached to the top. Please stop making Isabella cry. David. I laughed so hard I almost fell out of bed. The nurse was wheezing. Miss Emma, I think Mr. Harrison is trying to negotiate. I picked up a strawberry. He's doing a terrible job. 5 minutes later, I took a bite. A very sour bite. My face immediately twisted. The nurse burst out laughing. At that exact moment, from next door came an outraged shriek. Why are the strawberries so sour? The room went silent. Then the nurse collapsed into a chair laughing. I slowly put down the strawberry. Oh my god. The transfer function was evolving in ways science was not prepared for. Half an hour later, David stormed into my room. Again. Honestly, he should have just moved in. Mr. Harrison. I nodded politely. Miss Emma. He sounded dead inside. He pointed at me. Did you just eat a strawberry? Maybe. Was it sour? I looked impressed. You're getting smarter. His eye twitched. There it was. The old faithful eye twitch. Before he could say anything else, his phone rang. David answered. A few seconds later, his expression changed. Then changed again. Then became utterly bizarre. What? Pause. What do you mean she can't stop hiccuping? I nearly inhaled a strawberry whole. Hiccuping? Wait. I had hiccuped 3 times after drinking water too quickly earlier. No. No way. The system couldn't be that petty. It can. The system answered immediately. I was horrified. And deeply impressed. The rest of the afternoon was apparently spent with several specialists trying to cure Isabella's hiccups. None succeeded. One doctor suggested holding her breath. Another suggested drinking water upside down. A third suggested being startled. The third suggestion worked briefly. Then Isabella hiccuped directly into David's face. According to the nurse, he stood there for a full 30 seconds questioning every life decision that had led him to this moment. That evening I got bored again. Which was dangerous. Extremely dangerous. I sat on my bed. The system became alert immediately. Host? I ignored it. Instead I opened my phone. Thanks to the young nurse, I'd secretly gotten one. The internet was having a field day. The comments were glorious. Imagine risking prison for a woman who hiccups for 8 hours. Justice for the kidney lady. David Harrison looks like he aged 15 years in 1 week. I was happily scrolling when I saw something. An article. A photo. And there, standing beside David during a business event, was Isabella. Smiling. Healthy. Radiant. The article was dated 2 months ago. I narrowed my eyes. Wait. Healthy? Very healthy. Actually. Suspiciously healthy. System. Yes, host? Why exactly did she need my kidney? Silence. A long silence. Then, host has finally asked an intelligent question. Hey, scanning plot data. A few seconds passed. Then the system's voice became strange. Warning. I sat up. Warning. Original novel plot contains inconsistencies. Now I was interested. Very interested. What inconsistencies? Medical records may have been falsified. I nearly dropped my phone. Oh, host's kidney may never have been needed. The room became very quiet. Then I smiled. Slowly. Dangerously. The system immediately sounded nervous. Host? System. Yes? I think it's time we ruin someone's week. The next morning I requested exactly one thing. A full copy of Isabella's medical records. Naturally, David refused. So I shrugged. Then deliberately bit the inside of my cheek. Next door. 30 minutes later, the records arrived. Amazing how cooperative people become under the right circumstances. I flipped through the pages. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Then I stopped. The nurse leaned over. What is it? I pointed. Look. Her eyes widened. Oh, exactly. The diagnosis dates didn't match. The signatures didn't match. And one doctor listed on the paperwork had actually resigned from the hospital 6 months before the report was supposedly written. The records were fake. Completely fake. I leaned back, laughing. The nurse looked horrified. I looked delighted. Because this was even better than I thought. David hadn't tried to steal my kidney to save Isabella. He tried to steal it because Isabella wanted it. No medical necessity. No tragic illness. No desperate last resort. Just pure selfishness. I wiped a tear from my eye. That's hilarious. The nurse looked at me. Miss Emma. Yes. I think your definition of hilarious is concerning. I grinned. Wait until David finds out. And for the first time since arriving in this ridiculous novel, I was genuinely excited for tomorrow. The next morning, David arrived before breakfast. That alone was unusual. Normally, he spent the first few hours of every day dealing with Isabella's latest mysterious crisis. Today, however, he walked straight into my room. I was peeling an orange. He looked exhausted. I looked citrusy. Good morning. David ignored me. What do you know? Interesting. Very interesting. I popped an orange slice into my mouth. About what? He threw a folder onto my bed. The medical records. Apparently he'd looked at them too. These records are fake. I swallowed. Congratulations. His face darkened. You knew. I suspected. You knew. Fine. I knew. His hands clenched. For a moment, I thought he might actually faint. The great David Harrison had apparently discovered that he'd ruined his marriage, committed multiple crimes, and attempted organ theft for absolutely no reason. Honestly? Embarrassing. Then came footsteps. Fast footsteps. Panicked footsteps. A nurse burst through the door. Mr. Harrison. Not again. The poor woman was practically a recurring character now. What? Miss Isabella collapsed. David froze. I froze. The nurse looked terrified. She's vomiting blood. The room instantly became chaotic. Doctors rushed past. Machines beeped. People shouted. David ran out without another word. I sat there, slowly blinking, then looked at the system. That wasn't me. Correct. That really wasn't me. Correct. Oh, that was new. For the next 3 hours, the hospital looked like it was preparing for war. Specialists arrived. More tests were ordered. More consultations followed. Nobody knew what was happening. Even stranger. Nothing transferred to me. No pain. No symptoms. Nothing. Which meant whatever was happening to Isabella was completely her own problem. And for the first time since entering this novel, I was curious. By evening, the answer arrived. And it was magnificent. The young nurse practically kicked my door open. Miss Emma. What happened? She looked around dramatically before lowering her voice. They found drugs. I sat upright. What drugs? Weight loss injections. I blinked. What? The nurse nodded furiously. Illegal ones. Now things were getting interesting. Apparently Isabella had secretly been using dangerous imported injections to maintain her figure. For years. While pretending to be naturally delicate and beautiful. The side effects had finally caught up with her. Organ damage. Internal bleeding. Multiple complications. The doctors were furious. The specialists were furious. The hospital administration was furious. And David? David looked like someone had hit him with a truck. Twice. He stood beside Isabella's hospital bed holding the test results. She was crying. Naturally. Brother, listen to me. You lied. His voice was terrifyingly calm. Brother. You said you were dying. I was sick. You said you needed a kidney. Her face turned pale. David held up the records. The doctors say you never needed one. Silence. Dead silence. Then Isabella burst into tears. Brother, I was scared. You wanted Emma's kidney. No. You forged records. No. You let me imprison my wife. No. You watched me prepare surgery. Every sentence made her smaller. Every sentence made David look more horrifying. Years of obsession. Years of devotion. Years of sacrifice. Built on a lie. Meanwhile, I was eating pudding. The nurse had somehow obtained chocolate pudding. Life was good. Then the system suddenly spoke. Alert. I paused. What now? Major plot deviation detected. Oh. Male lead affection value collapsing. I nearly dropped my spoon. What? Original value, 100. Current value, 31. I sat up. Wait. Current value, 24. Wait. Current value, 18. Oh my god. The system sounded amazed. Host, I've never seen numbers fall this fast. That night, the real explosion happened. Not in the hospital. Online. Because someone leaked everything. The forged records. The fake diagnosis. The planned kidney harvest. Everything. Every disgusting detail. The internet lost its mind. Absolutely lost its mind. One headline went viral. Woman nearly loses kidney because mistress wanted better luck. Apparently Isabella had once claimed that receiving Emma's kidney would improve her fate. The comments were brutal. Absolutely brutal. People mocked her relentlessly. Memes appeared within hours. By midnight she was trending nationally. By morning she was internationally famous. For all the wrong reasons. Then came the final insult. I was scrolling through the comments when another nurse ran past my room. Then another. Then another. I looked up. What's happening now? The young nurse looked torn between concern and laughter. Miss Isabella tried to escape. I blinked. What? She disguised herself as a nurse. I stared. The nurse stared. We both burst out laughing. No. Yes. You're kidding. I'm not. Apparently Isabella had stolen a nurse's uniform and tried sneaking out through a service elevator. Unfortunately for her, she'd forgotten she was one of the most recognizable women in the country. Someone immediately took a picture. The photo spread online within minutes. The caption simply read, "Mistress on the run." I laughed so hard tears rolled down my face. The nurse wasn't doing much better. And somewhere down the hall, I could hear David Harrison shouting again. Honestly, this situation had escalated so far beyond kidney theft that even the original author probably wouldn't recognize it anymore. The next morning, the bodyguards outside my room were laughing at something on a phone. Show me. They immediately tried hiding it. Too late. I'd already seen Isabella's face. She was wearing the stolen nurse uniform. The caption read, "When your crimes reach 5 stars and you unlock stealth mode, I almost fell out of bed laughing. 10 minutes later the nurse arrived. Miss Emma, tell me everything. After the escape attempt, reporters surrounded the hospital. Then what happened? She called Mr. Harrison crying. That's normal. From a supply closet. I stared. She got lost. The nurse nodded. We laughed for 5 straight minutes. That afternoon, David's grandfather arrived. 5 minutes later shouting erupted from Isabella's room. You forged medical records? Smack. You nearly caused illegal organ harvesting? Smack. 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 The nurse looked at me. Should we stop him? Let's hear him out. Half an hour later David appeared in my room. I looked at his face. Did Grandpa hit you too? His eye twitched. Answer received. The nurse burst into my room again. Miss Isabella posted an apology online. That's normal. No. She handed me her phone. The apology basically said, David did everything. I was innocent. Everyone misunderstood me. I lowered the phone. Oh. The nurse nodded. She threw him under the bus. Backed up. Then drove over him again. That night I couldn't hear Isabella crying. I couldn't hear David yelling. The entire floor was quiet. Around midnight, I finally stepped into the hallway. David was standing outside Isabella's room, reading her apology post. Laughing. Not angry. Not shouting. Just laughing. And honestly, that was much scarier. David stood outside Isabella's room, laughing while looking at her apology post. Isabella stepped out. Brother. David showed her the phone. You blamed me. I was scared. I built everything for you. He laughed once. Isabella grabbed his arm. I love you. He pulled away. You love what I gave you. Silence. You never loved me. System. Male-led instability detected. Grandfather arrived. Enough. David didn't look at him. I'm ending it. Isabella froze. David. He walked past her. Stopped beside me. You were right. About what? This was never worth it. He left. No argument. No scene. Just gone. System. Male-led attachment. 0. Isabella stood still. David. No response. Grandfather spoke once. Go home. She broke. For the first time. Nobody moved to stop it. Isabella's breakdown didn't last long. Because reality moved faster than her emotions now. Reporters were already inside the hospital. Miss Isabella. Are the forged records real? Did you really authorize an illegal transplant attempt? Is it true you threatened the hospital staff? She tried to run. 2 steps. Then stopped. Security blocked the corridor. No one was letting her stealth mode escape work twice. David walked past everything like he didn't see her. Straight into a boardroom meeting that had been waiting for him. The Harrison executives were already there. Documents on the table. Screens on the wall. Evidence stacked neatly. Emma's doing. I was still in my room. Laptop open. The nurse stood behind me watching. You collected all this? I clicked another file open. Yes. Why? I looked at her. They tried to harvest my kidney. She nodded immediately. Fair. On the screen. Asterisk shell companies under David's name. Asterisk illegal hospital funding routes. Asterisk bribery logs. Asterisk sealed police reports that disappeared. Asterisk Isabella's financial transfers tied to fake medical claims. The nurse leaned closer. You got this from where? I pointed. Everyone talks. Then added. And I'm nosy. System chimed. Host interference detected in main plot economy. I didn't look up. Define interference. Corporate collapse probability increased to 87%. Good. Boardroom. David sat down. Didn't speak. The CFO started first. We've verified all documents. Silence. Another executive spoke. Some of these are criminal. Still silence. Then the screen switched. Emma's final file. A recorded hospital consent form. Signed. For my kidney. David stared at it. Long. Quiet. Then. I didn't sign that. The lawyer replied immediately. Your biometric signature confirms it. Silence. David leaned back. For the first time, no anger. Just realization. You've been building this the whole time. He wasn't asking. He was stating. Back in my room. The nurse whispered. Mr. Harrison is finished, isn't he? I nodded. Yes. System. Final collapse phase initiated. Isabella was dragged into a press line. Flashing cameras. Shouting everywhere. Were you behind the fake diagnosis? Did you push for the organ harvest? She tried to speak. No sound came out. Because there was nothing left to defend. David stepped out of the boardroom. No company. No authority. No support. Just legal notices in his hand. He looked at them once. Then dropped them. Didn't pick them up. System. Harrison Group, insolvent. I closed my laptop. That's it? The nurse blinked. That's actually it. Footsteps stopped outside my door. David again. But this time he didn't come in. Just stood there. I'm done fixing things. I didn't answer. He left. Isabella was arrested that evening. No dramatic escape. No last-minute rescue. Just paperwork and handcuffs. She screamed once. Then stopped. Because nobody was listening anymore. System. Main plot fully collapsed. Host victory confirmed. I stretched. Next arc. System paused. No remaining antagonists. I smiled. Perfect.